Hi, it's me, Caveman. This is my third entry in my Devlog journal. It's been a month since I decided to take on a real project, and here's my progress so far. Breaking the map into rooms. Instead of making a large single map with all enemies and items in it, I decided to divide the game into separate room scenes. This improves performance by lowering memory usage, keeping things modular and reusable, and reducing clutter. It also speeds up rendering and makes collision handling more efficient since fewer physics bodies and collisions are processed at a time. So, I drew each room separately and added a passage, an area 2D that triggers a scene change when the player enters. Doors and interaction system. Next, I added doors. To keep things modular, I introduced export variables, a door ID to identify each door, a boolean to determine if it's locked, a key tag to specify which key is needed to unlock it. To make interactions more flexible, I created an interaction component, which isn't just for doors. It works for anything that needs interaction, like inspecting areas or picking up items. Heads up display. Then, I designed a simple heads up display showing the player's status, health, ammo, energy, and mana. I also added an avatar for the protagonist. A label now displays the name of the current room when the player enters, and log messages appear when the player picks up an item or interacts with something important. I also implemented an inspect system where the protagonist shares their thoughts about an item or area. When inspecting, the game pauses, requiring the player to press the action button to proceed, just like in classic PS1 games. Persistent player data. At this point, I ran into an issue. The player's status reset every time they changed rooms. Health, bullets, everything, back to default. To fix this, I created a global script called Inventory Manager to store the player's current data. Now, stats persist across scene changes. This was when I really started to appreciate global scripts and how important they are. With this knowledge, I added Door Manager. Tracks unlocked doors so they don't lock again when re-entering a room. Item Manager ensures items don't respawn if already picked up. Event Manager handles cutscenes and boss battles. And a few more. Parallax and traversal effects. I also added a parallax effect in some rooms and designed effects for when the player moves up and down stairs. Inventory system, my biggest challenge. Then came the hardest part so far, the inventory menu. Making a UI with control nodes felt completely different from coding. In programming, there's a rule. DRY, don't repeat yourself. But with control nodes, you repeat as much as needed to achieve the right layout. At first, it was frustrating, but once I grasped the basics, everything started falling into place. Next, I built the status display, showing the player's current stats. Then came the second hardest part, inventory stacking. If a player picks up the same item, it stacks. If they use an item, it decreases. If it reaches zero, it disappears. The hardest part was centralizing inventory management. The player manager script handles the inventory UI. So, whenever an item is added to the inventory array, it sends a signal to update the UI. The item's display changes depending on its type, using a resource that holds its name, description, effects, and more. I also added unlockable abilities, like the Rabbit Stone, which grants a dash ability when acquired. One thing that gave me a hard time was designing a fireball projectile. It took a while, but I finally got it to work. Not perfect, but good enough for now. 1 month of progress. And that wraps up my first month of development, working 2 to 3 hours a day. I wish I could put in more hours, but hey, life is tough. Gotta grind first.